Nothing Worthwhile, the recognized symbol of excellence in crappy podcasting.
I'm Evan Moody.
And I'm Andy Gruthius.
And you're listening to Nothing Worthwhile
with Moody and Gru. Yeah.
Brother.
Well.
Psycho-esque.
Peace white. Beans, rice, corn tortillas. I want to change my drink order.
What would you like?
Ideally, 70% lemonade, 20% punch, 10% Sprite. If they don't have fruit punch, do like 85% lemonade and 15% Sprite. All right. If they don't have lemonade, do 85% punch and 15% Sprite. Or 7-Up. My name is Jeff Lewis, and I'm a real estate investor, which is kind of a...
But let me tell you a little history about Hulkamania. A long time ago, brother, in the New York City area, brother, when Hulkamania was running wild, the promoter's ego got bigger than the wrestling business. And as Hulk Hogan pulled his troops out, the red and the yellow little Hulksters, a couple years down the road, as we speak, that promoter is dying and choking on his own ego. That's why the WCW, I was looking for a place for Hulkamania to grow, for the little Hulksters to become redwoods.
So now, Triple H, The Rock says, what you gonna do when the 24... No, wait, that's not it. Hold on, that's not it. Oh, this is it. To be the man, woo, you gotta beat... No, wait, that's not it. That's not it. Oh, this is it. Ooh, yeah, Dick. Oh, damn it, that's not it either.
Don't worry, yours is no better.
Oh, wait, this is it. I am the best there is, the best there... No, wait, that's not it either. That damn sure ain't it. This is it. The most electrifying line in sports entertainment today. If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
A very happy new year to all. Our first new show of 2023 will be our first ever. Follow along. Evan Moody live from Phoenix, Arizona. Andrew Gruthius live from Coconut Creek, Florida. Andrew Gruthius, a very happy new year to you.
Happy New Year to you as well, my partner in grime.
Yes, I have not showered yet. I don't even think I've
well, we've been on vacation for 2 weeks. Why shower, you know?
Oh, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. A lot of anticipation for this podcast, and I mean, I've had, just like you, almost 2 weeks off, and am I looking forward to going back to work? No, but am I ready to go back to work? It's a mild yes. It's time already.
See, I'm the opposite. I am looking forward to going back to work. I'm not even close to being ready to go back to work.
Okay, well.
So but yeah, you know, like this second week in Florida, because one of the novelties of living in Florida is like during these vacations, you see a lot of people from New York because they all come down here.
Right.
But they're only here for that first week because they go back to school like right after New Year's. We get that, you know, we end later and start later, so now this last week has been like pretty quiet and sort of like dragged along, so not that I have any problem with that. Anything that lets me sleep later I'm good with, but anyway.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I mean, we don't get the big New York crowd, but like when I start looking at like, you know, looking forward to like Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Hey, let me find the assembly cut of Alien 3. It's.
I've been. Hey, this is when we catch up on all our stuff.
It's about time, to fill in those empty hours. Marie goes to work, and I feel like I'm like a doggy dad. Like, oh, honey, I did the laundry, and I walked the dog. Anyway.
Well, I'm sitting there, finding the unrated producer's cut of Police Academy 3. That's, and there's some gems in there. There's some good stuff.
Yeah, well, there is actually an assembly cut of Alien 3 with David Fincher. And
is there really?
Yes, there is a significantly a lot more footage and a couple of different plot points, actually, and one of them I really super liked, and I'm trying to, and I found a guy who actually reviewed the assembly cut versus the standard theatrical cut of Alien 3, and I watched his video. I don't know, I was upstairs cleaning up or something like that, and I had it on my laptop, and and I was listening, and I'm trying to find that now because I really want to see it to compare, because I'm like you, I'm a loser and a nerd, and I have nothing better to do with my life.
Damn right.
Gru, it's icon versus icon. No, it's not Evan Moody versus Andrew Gruthius. It's Hollywood Hulk Hogan versus The Rock from all the way back at WrestleMania 18. Your screen went. We've done
our icon match.
Yes, that's right. But you want to get to it? We'll do the week that was.
Oh yeah. No, but I was saying, I was going off what you said. I said you and I have had our icon match, and we need to find the footage of that because that's our next follow along.
There you go. Definitely not as highly regarded as Hogan Rock.
Did we have a trilogy? Did you and I have a trilogy?
I feel like for all of the storylines we went through, we've only had one face-to-face. We've had some different tag teams.
That's
different
true,
incarnations, if you will. But maybe someday we could close it out somehow in proper fashion. But until then, Gru, let's get to it. It's our first of 2023. It's nothing worthwhile. The week that was.
New You Life Center presents Nothing Worthwhile, the week that was.
Gru, Nothing Worthwhile, the week that was is brought to you by New You Life Center, solutions tailored to the individual. At New You Life Center, we believe that no goal is too big. With the proper tools, resources, and support team by your side, we can help you achieve your goal. Yeah, we're going to do a podcast live from New You Life Center when Andrew visits us in Arizona. We're going to have Marie explain the procedures that she's going to take Andrew Gruthius through. She'll go through it, and then we'll talk. We'll interview Gru afterwards and see if he's all he's coughing and all refreshed and.
Did they do waxing? Did they do waxing there?
I'm sure we can get that done.
It'd be funny if they did to get like my reaction. Just like do it once on one thing. I've heard nightmares.
I'm pretty sure we can get that done. Well, anyway, people, check out their medical weight loss program, semaglutide, B12, HCG for men and women at www.newlifecenters.com. Give them a call at 480-205-9272. Tell Moody Gru sent you and receive a big 15% off your first service. Thank you, New You Life Center. Gru, before we get to the week that was, I do want to acknowledge the deaths of Barbara Walters, Fred the Elephant Boy from the Howard Stern Show, and of course we are pulling for Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin, who had, for lack of a better word, a heart attack on the field during Monday Night Football as the Bills were playing the Cincinnati Bengals. So just reading today, he FaceTimed the team, so it looks like he is improving. But I do want to acknowledge some of those side notes before we get to the week that was.
Yeah, well, first let's start with Damar Hamlin. It's great news. Pretty much it's been great news since the bottom fell out, meaning where everybody really thought he was not going to make it, and I'm not so sure. I mean, they haven't said what exactly happened to him, but I think I know his heart stopped, and they had to restart it, which they did. But it's always how much time between the heart stopping and it being restarted. That's the key. And once they said that he was neurologically intact, that was the great news, and it's been all uphill from there. So, so I'm very happy to hear that. That was a very freak and disturbing thing to see.
Yeah, I think. I think, for lack of a better word, he had a heart attack on the field caused by perhaps a hit that would look pretty standard in terms of football. But I agree, and I think the first responders. Oh yeah, clearly saved this man's life. They were able to get on the field and give him CPR for over 9 minutes. So
the least paid people on the field are the ones who save the ones who save his life. Isn't that ironic?
That is certainly ironic. Gru, any thoughts on Barbara Walters and Fred the Elephant Boy?
Well, the only thought I have is it's too bad that both of them died, because I was waiting for the Barbara Walters special where she interviews Fred the Elephant Boy. That would have been very interesting. But look, both of them, look, Barbara Walters is an American icon in many ways. She had been for 60 years, pioneer in women's journalism. Her specials were always, I don't know if she was such an incredible interviewer. I as far as the questions are concerned, like, I've seen better, but the way she probed her interviewees, I don't know. She just had a way about her that brought a lot of things out of people. So she had a talent. She was very good. She created The View. She had talk about a life well lived into her 90s. So God bless her. Good job, and thank you for your service.
Would you say she is the preeminent female journalist of our time?
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anybody else. There's only been like 2 of them. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, is it Barbara Walters and then like a big gap for like Connie Chung?
No, I don't think it's a huge gap. I think people like Connie Chung and Jane Pauley and Katie Couric, people like that would be the first people to say that they were bred from Barbara Walters. So that's and I think it's completely true.
You mentioned Barbara Walters, in terms of interviewing, like line of questioning. Maybe she, I mean, her interview specials were back in the day were must-see. Different climate, obviously, in different time on television, but her interviews were at a time where, I mean, I've watched some of clips of her interviews on YouTube. Journalists could really kind of go at their interview targets, not necessarily in a disrespectful way, but she had no problem bringing up, embarrassing spots or, moral slips. She went after it.
Yeah, but you know how she did it, and you saying that just made me realize what I was trying to say. She did it, if you look at it, she did it like a psychiatrist would. So it makes it easier for the person to talk. She doesn't do it with a microphone in your face like, what do you have to say about the time that Mike Tyson hit you? She'd sit back with her arms folded. So how do you feel about the times you spent with Mr. Tyson? Like it was almost like therapeutic, except on national television. So I think that was a gift that she had to really make people comfortable in sharing all this stuff, to, I guess, make the room feel like it was just them two and not them two plus hundreds of millions of people. Right. I think she had a way of doing that, and that's a pretty good skill. So she tons of interviews. She got everybody. There's nobody. I don't remember if I liked Howard's interview with her or not. Do you?
I mean, obviously, if we want to segue into Howard and Fred the Elephant Boy, I mean, I think Howard, I think by the time Barbara came on, if you were a hardcore old school Stern fan, you could see the writing on the wall. I didn't have a problem with Barbara Walters because she's kind of a gal and she could spar with the best of them, and she, but you could see that Howard was already trying to transition it to more a level guests, and Barbara Walters is certainly one of them. I think they knew each other, and there was definitely a rapport there, and I don't think she was thrown off by some of Howard's line of questioning, whereas back in the day, Howard, I think when he had celebrities in, he would try to, cover some of these things where it was exciting. It was, as a listener, you could feel the energy in the room. I remember the Barbara Walters stuff being fairly interesting, but more of a standard Q&A.
Yeah.
So,
but so rest in peace, Barbara Walters. Thank you for the memories.
Well, you mentioned Howard, so the other piece is Fred the Elephant Boy, perhaps the original Whack Packer, going all the way back to 1988. Give me your thoughts on the death of Fred the Elephant Boy.
Well, first of all, I would like our eulogy to be better than Howard's, which isn't going to be very difficult.
It's not that I had a problem with Howard's eulogy, it's where he places it in the show. And to me, Fred the Elephant Boy, 1988, I think perhaps the original Whack Packer, a guy who's given you boundless hours, thousands of hours of content, perhaps at his own expense. And yes, these guys do benefit by getting a cottage industry of appearances and B-level celebrity. But, I mean, I went upstairs to wash up, and I remember I said, let me put my phone on, let me put the Siri. I hadn't listened to the app in a while. I see, Howard's back from vacation. Let me see what he has to say. And I'm listening, and then all of a sudden, 90 minutes into it, he mentions Fred the Elephant Boy, and I'm like, wow. And then I was like, wow, this is like the middle of the show. And so, was it the greatest eulogy? No. His eulogy seemed very standard, like it doesn't matter whether it is Barbara Walters or Fred the Elephant Boy. But I feel like Howard owed it to, I'm not sure if he owes it to his fans or owes it to Fred the Elephant Boy.
Owes it to Fred.
I feel like he should have opened with that. That guy was a major contributor to the show.
And now he won't be mentioned again.
Well, I'll give you something even worse. Then he promos 101's going to do some kind of special over the weekend on Fred the Elephant Boy. So not only will he probably not mention him again, but then he's going to, in a sense, benefit by, playing some special off the guy's over the weekend.
That's terrible. Do you remember, and I know we're getting off Fred for a second, but it's related. Do you remember when Kenneth Keith Kallenbach died? They were practically sitting vigil. It was like a bomb had dropped in the studio. I remember Steve Langford, the news guy, was coming in every 5 minutes with new reports and new information, and they were genuinely upset. I remember that. Yeah. It wasn't that long ago.
I remember when Hank, the angry dwarf, died, and they were having people call in with eulogies and.
Yes, where's that? That's what. And don't tell me you need to please a national audience now, because your audience was 10 times bigger when those people passed away than it is now. So but to move forward on Fred the Elephant Boy, get off of Howard and on to Fred. Everything you said is 100% spot on. Fred really originated the Whack Pack. He was the first guy. He's the guy that Howard, I know he did it as a joke, but it wasn't a joke. Howard had him introduce Howard for the debate for the governor. The gubernatorial debate when Howard was running for governor for 5 minutes. Fred was always part of the opening packages. That in fact there was a stretch of time where Fred's voice was the last one you heard before Howard came on, because they would use that sound clip of the King of Media and the King of Media, Howard Stern, and then the show would begin. So Jesus Christ, and this guy, even though he's kind of faded off in the last several years, probably not his own fault. But the Whack Pack is pretty much non-existent at this point. It's just a bunch of individuals who pop up every now and then. But look, Fred had a terrible disability, and he turned it into radio gold and he gave Howard Stern his everything to do with what he pleased. And so even though we haven't heard from Fred in a while, it's a bummer, and I've enjoyed actually looking up old clips.
Yeah.
I won't be able to hear it, or I won't be able to hear the actual ones on Howard's app. I'll get it on YouTube and hear the good stuff there. So, yeah, Fred, rest in peace. We'll miss you, but you did well.
Yeah, I will echo Fred the Elephant Boy, rest in peace. And the only thing I'll say about Howard is this just validates my feelings about him. So,
yeah. And let's do something that I don't think Howard did. I don't even think Howard said his real name. He might have. I didn't hear it. Fred Schreiber is
You're right.
is Fred the Elephant Boy's Christian name, or Jewish name. I think he's Jewish. Schreiber is definitely sounds like, is he related to Liev Schreiber? I don't know. Probably not.
Well, probably not. But
yeah, Fred Schreiber.
Thank you, Fred Schreiber.
How did he die? Did they give a cause of death?
I did read there was like an obit online. I want to say perhaps ALS.
Lou Gehrig's disease. Wow.
Or cerebral palsy. I don't really remember as to what was the medical situation, but he was in his 60s, still relatively young. So it was a bummer. Yeah. The Whack Packers, they've fallen off one by one over the years, and
well, they're not exactly the pictures of health. Not that we are, but they look. Maybe Howard's starting to take a look at himself and saying, "I'm really exploiting what's killing these people." Or maybe that's how he sees it. Maybe he sees like he exploited the hell out of. Even cleft palate, like things like why was Fred the Elephant Boy part of the show? Because he was fucked up. Why was Crackhead Bob part of the show? Because he was fucked up. And you have to think that these, ailments are what eventually takes these people. Whether it's mental health or whether it's physical health, whatever. I mean, you know that high pitch Eric is going to drop dead someday because there's a guy who does not take care of himself in any way whatsoever, and all it's just about what's the next disgusting thing he can do to get on Howard, right?
Well, I hear your point. I don't think Howard's that thought out. I think he's moved on in a sense from the Whack Pack because of how he wants to portray his show. I don't think it's necessarily having to do with the Whack Pack. Ironically enough, I'll just leave you with this because I would like to move on, but he had High Pitch Eric on, who supposedly was feuding with Fred the Elephant Boy all these years, and of course High Pitch, he claims that they spoke off air and had made amends. Then Howard blasts High Pitch because they had Holly Weird Squares on, and the Stern Show sent Fred the Elephant Boy equipment for the radio broadcast because they're doing it all remote. And then High Pitch emailed Gary and said, I'm podcasting, I'd like to keep the equipment. So of course Howard blasted High Pitch for calling him a schnurrer. And again, I'm saying to myself, yeah, High Pitch is being a dick, but you can't give the guy podcast. These guys giving you thousands upon thousands of hours of content. I get it. The guy's being a jerk, but be the better guy. Give him the equipment, and make yourself look like a hero, and then you could blast the guy on the air. Instead, Howard's like, I told you to send the stuff back anyway.
Yeah, high pitch is they're all schnurrers. They're all in Flakowitz bagels looking to pay 50 cents extra or 50 cents less for a pickle. Come on.
Well, I will be in South Florida in a couple of weeks. Maybe we can hit up Flakowitz. Gru, let me get your thoughts on this. It has been a while. Gru, last weekend, Rolling Stone put out their top 200 singers of all time list. I don't know if you're aware of this.
No.
Fans cried foul about a lot of exclusions. Chiefly leaving one out was Canadian songstress Celine Dion. Announcing the roster on Twitter, Rolling Stone was already on the defensive, quote, the Rolling Stone Twitter feed, before you start scrolling and commenting, keep in mind that this is a greatest singers list, not the greatest voices list, the tweet said. Quote, talent is impressive, genius is transcendent. But when the Dion diehards realized that the Canadian chanteuse had not been deemed transcendent enough to rate in the top 200, they reacted as though they had just collided with an iceberg, Gru, lining up to drag the magazine. Quote, Rolling Stone needs to immediately exit the business of music journalism, said one Twitter user. Quote, the fact that Celine Dion isn't anywhere in the top 200 is a crime against humanity. Gru, there were other surprises on Rolling Stone's list. Michael Jackson was ranked only number 86. Again, I'm just reading the article. While Kurt Cobain got number 36. Taylor Swift got ranked at 102. While Barbra Streisand got ranked spot 147. Celine Dion, Judy Garland, and Cher didn't make the cut at all, yet heavy metal whaler Ozzy Osbourne did. By the way, Gru, Elton and Bruce both made the cut, while nothing worthwhile favorite Billy Joel did not. Rolling Stone's top 5, Gru, were number 1, Aretha Franklin, number 2, Whitney Houston, number 3, Sam Cooke, number 4, Billie Holiday, and number 5, Mariah Carey. Gru, these lists are always great fodder for debate. Gru, Rolling Stone's top 200 of all time?
Yeah, well, I'll address the Celine Dion thing. I think I'm with the fans on that, because the way you described Rolling Stone's description of the list, it's not necessarily about the quality of the voice, it's about the talent involved, right? That's what they said?
Yes, and
okay.
they're also giving the preeminent tweet because they're trying to say, again, subjective.
Right, but guess what? Celine Dion falls right into that category, because Celine Dion's got what I call, and I'm not a huge Celine Dion fan, but it's what I call a perfect voice, meaning that she can sing any song. She doesn't make them her own. Okay, but she can make any song sound good. That's the talent that her voice has. Okay, but it could be the Titanic song, it could be It's All Coming Back to Me Now, it's what it is. She takes other people's writing, and she's basically the greatest karaoke singer in history. And because she can basically sing any song and make it sound great. She doesn't make mistakes in her voice. That being said, the voice, I know where the list is going. I think the way they make the list is how the voice brings the music, like the marriage of voice and music. That's why Kurt Cobain makes sense to me on that list. Okay, that's why Ozzy Osbourne kind of makes sense to me on that list. That's where I'm going. I'm surprised that Billy Joel is not on there, because Billy Joel is known for being able to make his voice bring out the different styles that he adapts his voice to is based on the music, and that's a huge talent. So
okay, well, I'm waiting for you to take a breath, so I
just to give you my, if I was making this list to show you what I'm talking about, my number one and their number one are exactly the same. Aretha Franklin has the greatest singing voice in the history of the universe.
Yeah, I think these lists are always very subjective. The problem I have with the list is, see, Rolling Stone did a top 100 like in 2012. And so this time around, under the guise of inclusion and diversity, again, they have these very, what's the word I'm looking for here? These very, a merengue vocalists and people that really, for the most part, in the mainstream, you've never heard of before. And so I feel like they've for the sake of inclusion and diversity, they've added a lot of names that perhaps a lot of people don't know, and so the list may be skewered. Just on the face of it alone, does Celine Dion deserve to be in the top 200? Sure. I mean, to Gru's point about like karaoke, I don't know about that, but she's had a couple of big hits, and she certainly seems to have a pretty rich, lush voice as far as I'm concerned. In terms of placement, I don't know. I mean, Aretha Franklin sounds like a great choice, but I'd have to really sit down and think about it, and that's too much for me to think about.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised that they would. But even though I do agree with Aretha number one, my number two would be Streisand. I'm amazed that she's all the way down. But
Taylor Swift in comparison got ranked higher than Barbra Streisand. I mean, to me, Whitney Houston at number two, she definitely had an amazing voice, but to me, she was a pop songstress, and again, probably her greatest hit was a cover of a Dolly Parton. I don't know if I would put her up there. She's certainly a great vocalist, but I'm also looking at the richness of the material, and
interesting you said that. And then we'll get off this, but I just want to compare the two. So Whitney Houston covered "I Will Always Love You" by Dolly Parton, and for most most people, when it was a huge hit, didn't know that it was a cover. Yes. Because Whitney made her version her own. So that kind of became the definitive version of that song. That's what she was able to do. That's what Aretha was able to do. Even though I still like the Dolly Parton version better, but Whitney Houston took that and made it her own. Celine Dion doesn't do that. Okay? Remember, she did that song, "It's All Coming Back to Me Now."
Yes.
It's exactly the same as every other cover of that song. Literally note for note, style for style. And she did a great job, but she didn't do anything different with it. And that's kind of what she does. So to me, that's the difference between those two. The Greatest Love of All is another example. That was a cover as well. That's a song from the 70s. I don't even know who did that first, but who made it a hit? Whitney Houston. So I think that's the difference between those two.
You want to hear a great cover of a Whitney Houston song? Listen to David. What was his? Is it David Lynch, the lead singer of Talking Heads?
David Byrne.
David Byrne did a cover of "I Want to Dance with Somebody."
I would love to hear David Byrne sing that.
It's great. It's on a live. It's definitely on Apple Music somewhere.
All right, I'll find that.
Yeah, it's definitely a poppy, but
he should be in that top 200. You know why? Because he's got an incredibly distinctive voice that can't be duplicated, that fits the music that he sings to a T. He is so good. I don't know that he's not.
He might not have the entire list in front of me, but I definitely wanted to double check Billy because Elton made the cut, and I'm like, well, let me just see to discuss with Gru if Billy didn't make the cut, but Elton, in comparison, Elton and Bruce did. So anyway, all right, check it out. It's Rolling Stone's Top 200. I believe it's on their website, easily accessible. Gru, tough way to start the new year for Marvel actor Jeremy Renner. He lost a significant amount of blood New Year's Day before being airlifted to a hospital after his snowplow accidentally ran over one of his legs at his home in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. A neighbor who is a doctor, lucky for him, managed to rush to the aid of Hawkeye star after a tourniquet was applied to his injured leg. An air ambulance took Renner to a hospital near Reno. TMZ noted on their website that the star's injuries are extensive, and other parts of his body were also injured along with his leg. Apparently, Renner was alone and had been trying to clear a path out of his 5-bedroom home following a massive snowstorm over the New Year. This was a while back, but he is stable condition after the accident. Apparently, a safety feature on the plow may have failed, sending the heavy machinery rolling over him. A spokesman for the two-time Oscar-nominated actor said he was injured in Nevada after experiencing a weather-related accident while plowing snow. Guru Jeremy Renner lives about 25 miles outside of Reno, Nevada, in an area called Mount Rose Ski Tahoe, and he has previously shared photos and videos of himself using his snowplow to dig out of winter storms. Guru, sounds like Jeremy Renner is lucky to even be alive.
Yeah, well, considering where he lives, I know a good cure for his ailment. Just 20 minutes up the road in Reno, there's a place called the Sharpie Ranch.
Let me hear about the Sharpie Ranch. What could you? We're not allowed to talk about. We signed an NDA every time we walk out of there. But understood.
But I think you can fill in the blanks there. But
brother,
I read that Renner was trying to dig out a car that was stuck or whatever. But either way, yeah, lucky to be alive. You know, when you've got, you're out there, I don't know, like, you you have these toys and you think you're invincible. I don't know. I don't know. That's like, I think about myself in those situations. Like, if I need to do something or whatever, like, I don't think I would ever really want to be out there alone. You know why? Because I'm not going to say the name of the person, but somebody you and I both knew almost 30 years ago at this point died shoveling snow. He was out there in his yard by himself shoveling snow. Really, shoveling snow is it's not easy. And he was by himself, and the family walked out an hour later, and he was dead on the ground. So, like, if you're doing something that's I don't know. I could never be alone like that. But luckily, he was found, and he's Hawkeye. So I would have expected him to be a little more. No, I'm just, but I'm glad that he's okay. It looks like he's going to be okay. He shared some Instagram stuff, so it looks like it's going to take a while, but he's going to be okay.
Which, by the way, it bugs me to no end. Like, I hate people who share stuff from, like, the hospital, whether it's typical person or, like, otherwise. It's like, all right, But my feelings notwithstanding, I was at, like, a family thing, and I said, like, I mean, Jeremy Renner's, like, kind of in your vein. I said, like, he's a wealthy guy. Why doesn't he just, like, hire somebody? And they said, well, come on, he's trying to be a regular guy. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, it's kind of commendable that he's still trying to stay connected, maybe, again, this is just my take on it, to, like, being a regular guy, and, like, regular people go out and shovel snow, and regular people, again, he had some very high-powered toy, which is maybe not what most people have, but he had some massive snow plow, and he's like, hey, let me go put on my Dickies and my Carhartt, and, go take my snow plow and clear it out. So I won't kill him on that. Ultimately, I hope the guy is okay, and it sounds like he will be. He may have to have some additional surgeries to correct whatever happened. But my take, if he was doing it in the sense to just get out there and have that shared experience like most humans have, which is doing the chores and getting the house ready, then I can't blame the guy.
Well, he wasn't doing. There were no cameras around, but to that point. There are a lot, and this is where I'm going to use my experience. There are a lot of people who are exactly like you described. When the cameras are on, they're like, hey, look at me, I'm picking up my own Christmas tree, or picking up my own, hey, next on CNN, Ben Stiller goes Christmas shopping, like that. So there are, a lot of them are like that. They love being waited on hand and foot. But there are others who are uncomfortable with that. Yeah. They don't want, like, my old boss, Harvey Keitel, was even though sometimes he liked his toys and he liked his status, but there were times when he would be embarrassed by people opening the door for him. Like he liked to drive. He liked to drive his own car. He didn't like unless it was like an event where he needed to be dropped off. If he had to go down to the store or something, he liked to do that. He didn't like to do stuff that he could do himself. He didn't need a worker to do it, unless he was busy with something else. So there are people like that, and I don't think it's because they want the real person experience. I think it's because that's human nature. If I could do it myself, I'm going to do it.
Understood. I was just making sort of a point. I'm not saying that's Jeremy Renner's.
No, your point is completely valid.
But I do believe wealthy people who want to get out there and do those day-to-day things. I do think it is because of their upbringing and a working men's. I feel like if I got slapped lucky and was able to have tons of dough. And I think you too. There's a certain upbringing, and there's a certain mentality, there's a certain value system, and I probably would get out there and shovel snow too if I could physically and not hurt myself, because I still want to keep my feet on. I still want to be somewhat grounded. That's just me.
But also, if you look at the other side, and I'll just give you one quick example. I don't even remember who it was, but it was somebody promoting something, and I remember seeing him on The View. Not that I watched The View, but I guess maybe I did. Maybe it was somebody I was interested in. I forgot. It might have been because I don't know, Robert Downey Jr. was on, or somebody I liked was on. So no.
Was it the episode when Fred Schreiber was on The View?
No, it was not Fred.
Okay.
Fred. No, it was Billy Crystal. That's who it was. So I watched him on The View, which is in New York. Okay, and then that same night, I saw him on Jimmy Kimmel Live. So I'm like, okay, now if I have to go to the bank and the grocery store in the same day, that's my day. I'm done. I can't do anything else. I need an extra nap. But here's a guy who is being shuffled from New York to LA, back here, doing all so I'm saying, okay, now these guys have to be in 12,000 different places at 20,000 different times, so I can see how they need to rely upon, not having to worry about where did I park my car, where did I do this, where did I do that. I can see them utilizing the resources that they have with the responsibilities that they have. I get that, and all of us would all be the same way. If you had to be 7 places in one day, and you had somebody if somebody in your office said, "Hey, do you want this person to drive you so you can do the work, so you could do work in the back?" You would take it in a second. So I'm
not questioning that, but on the surface, your analogy I don't really buy, because when you're talking about groceries and to the bank, that's mundane stuff. If you're talking about going on The View to Jimmy Kimmel, that's kind of maybe at Billy Crystal's stage now, it's a drag, but I would be excited to go on there and promote whatever I'm doing or whatever product. So
it's still work for them. It's still work for them.
All right, well, fair enough. Well, then let me hear what you think about this, Gru. Dana White and his wife, Ann, had a brief physical fight at a New Year's Eve party in Mexico.
Was it in an octagon?
No, he was not. The longtime UFC boss and his wife were partying in the VIP section of El Squid Row in Cabo San Lucas. Yeah, Gru and I party there all the time. Video of the incident published by TMZ showed White leaning down to say something to his wife. She responded by slapping him in the face, and then he responded by slapping her in the face
even
twice.
Hotter.
The two were quickly separated. Dana White released a statement saying, "My wife and I were out for New Year's Eve, and unfortunately that's what happened."
Wait, Dana's the wife or the guy?
No, Dana's the guy. Dana White is the guy. Come on, now you're being cool. You know Dana White is the head of UFC.
It's a manly name right there.
Well, it is probably a unisex name, sure. It's like Tracy.
Woke Dana White.
Well, yeah. He said, look, I'm one of the guys, you've heard me say for years that there's never ever an excuse for a guy to put his hands on a woman, and now here I am on TMZ talking about it. Quote, "My wife and I have been married for almost 30 years. We've known each other since we were 12 years old. We've obviously been through some shit together. We've got 3 kids. And this is one of the situations that's horrible. I'm embarrassed, but it's also one of those situations where right now We're more concerned about our kids. We've shown the kids the video, and we're more focused on our family right now. People are going to have their opinions on this, and most of the people's opinions will be right. Especially in my case, you just don't put your hands on a woman ever. My wife and I obviously had been drinking. It's just one of those unfortunate situations. For her part, Dana's wife, Ann White, told TMZ, quote, to say this is out of character for him is an understatement. Nothing like this has ever happened before. Guerrilla combat sports making its way into the white marriage.
I love that. That's great. Combat Good job. Combat sports making its way into the whites marriage. Look, if nobody's filing charges, then it's their business. I respect the way that both Dana White, I don't really like him that much to begin with. I'm not a UFC guy, and I see him as kind of a sleaze. But at the same time, I respect how he handled that. Like, you know, he there's nothing he didn't really say. He said, you saw what you see on the video happened. Okay, not denying anything. Fucked up. We're dealing with it with our children and our family. But yeah, you see it. There it is. That happened. I did it. Okay? We did it. Boom. I love that kind of honesty in the media. So I respect the hell out of that. The wife probably could have gone a little further, but can I just call them both Dana, just so I'm not confused?
Sure. Yeah. Dana wanted.
So Dana. So both Danas did a good. I'm such an asshole, but yeah. I mean, I'm good for them for owning it right away.
Yeah, you guys got to own it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. That's a. Yeah.
No. I agree. I agree with everything you said. I mean,
I don't like you own it. I don't like you're good. You get that too when you say I'm sorry to somebody. No, you're good. Like, I know I'm good, fucker. What's your problem?
You know what bothers me? Like when I'm reading the paper and they talk about like Instagram and like people going at each other and they go like, let's say. Dana White clapped back at, like you know what I mean? Like that bothers me.
She was applauding him. By the way, Did you see the almost steel cage match in the House of Representatives last night?
I read about it.
It was so funny.
I didn't see it, but hey, listen. Actually, I really don't have a problem with it. I mean, it's I guess in a sense it's democracy playing itself out.
I mean the physical altercation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know a guy had to be held back, but I mean, I've seen clips of like the Canadian Parliament where people get up, they openly cheer people. I mean, in Britain as well. Yeah. So maybe we're evolving or devolving into the topic that we'll talk about.
I've never seen that. I've never seen that before, though. I've never seen anybody go after somebody physically in our country, anyway. But
again, I mean, I guess I don't have a problem with that kind of passion. I mean, it is. We're supposed to be governing people,
but you know what I look at it like you do that. Well, wait a second. You don't do that. These are our elected leaders who are supposed to be a model of a certain order, and to do that in view of the whole country, to me it's like angry parents and fighting in front of their children. Like that's the way I look at it. It's not professional. It's not the way it's supposed to be. You take it away from us. That's not what I want to see. But
that notion has been out the door a long
you're right.
time ago, and
in both the house and in both families' houses.
You see it every day on the news with these talking heads and these people going after each other.
You're right.
Speeches where get this one, get that one.
You're right,
and it happens on all sides. So
you're 100%
I hear what you're
right.
saying. Physical is kind of startling, but I would say you're going back already 20, 30 years. It's been this lack of tone and lack of respect.
Yeah,
so
you're 100% right.
Anyway, let me hear your thoughts on this. Guardians of the Galaxy star and WWE Hall of Famer Dave Bautista is ready to move on from playing the character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The former wrestler, 53 years of age, recently admitted to GQ how the experience of embodying Drax, the muscle-bound superhero, across 5 full-length movies, plus a recent streaming holiday special, has taken a toll on him. Quoting Bautista, "I'm so grateful for Drax. I love him. But there's a relief that it's over. It wasn't all pleasant. It was hard to play that role. The Dune actor, who can also be seen in Daniel Craig's new Netflix hit movie Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, specifically added that preparation for filming was a lot to take for what he called a, quote, silly role. Quoting Bautista, "The makeup process was beating me down, and I just don't know if I want Drax to be my legacy. It's a silly performance, and I want to do more dramatic stuff." Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is set to hit theaters in May, will be the last time Bautista portrays Drax. Bautista can next be seen in Netflix's Glass Onion, Dune Part 2, and M. Night's horror mystery Knock at the Cabin.
Knock at the Cabin.
Knock at the Cabin.
Knock at the Cabin.
Please, let me... please. You okay?
I'm fine.
Okay. Elsewhere in the GQ profile, Bautista claimed he doesn't give a F about being a movie star. Quote, "I don't live in a great big glamorous life. I live here in Tampa. I don't care about the spotlight. I don't care about my fame." He confessed, quote, "I just want to be a better actor. I want respect from my peers. I don't need accolades. I really don't, man." Gru, interested to hear your thoughts on Dave Bautista's comments.
Yeah, actually, I agree with everything he said, except for never say never. Don't piss on your nest egg, because whenever they call and say, "Hey, here's another $7 million. Can you come and do a few days of Drax?" He'll do it in a second, and he'll be happy to do it in a second. But with that being said, I will say that Dave Bautista actually is a very good actor. I have seen him. I actually think that... Well, meaning that, look, The Rock...
I'm bantering with you. I'm not... just, I like how you said actor.
Well, I wanted to distinguish that because...
Nor disagreeing with you.
Because honestly, I look at The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, I don't think actor. I think movie star. And I think wrestler. Well, do you?
Can you? I mean, have I not stated this on this podcast? I said John Cena to me has a higher upside as an actor.
Yep.
But if I could just because for Bautista's comments, I liked them and I disliked them because we had movie night on Wednesday night. And I went to Monique Verdugo's house. Our special guest from time to time.
Moni.
And I watched on HBO Max The Menu, starring Ralph Fiennes, and I did say to her, because we talked about Bautista's comments, I mean, when you sit there and you say, whether or not you agree or disagree, the Drax is a silly role, I think you're shitting on the role that gave you really the majority of your fame outside of your wrestling career. That put Dave Bautista spotlight in the film world is the Drax character, and I thought a little bit of that was a backhanded slap, perhaps at Marvel, perhaps at Drax, or perhaps at the whole thing. And I thought, I like, hey, I don't give a shit about fame. I want to be at the highest level of my, of my profession. Like, I like all that stuff. But I thought, giving it the little jab, I thought, in my opinion, a little bit unnecessary.
Well, yeah, but you also got to remember what he said. He didn't say it was a silly role. He said it was a silly performance. So I think he was pointing at himself and not giving himself the credit, thinking that he's just a big dumb goof who gets covered by all this makeup. But if you look at it and think of his performance as that character, he so underplays it, and that's exactly the way it should be. Think if The Rock was Drax, he'd be like, "I've been standing here for an hour," and put the eyebrow up, Instead, Bautista is like, "I've been here for an hour." And it's 10,000 times funnier. So I don't think he gives himself enough credit for that. I think what he's talking about is like the physicality of it. You know, he says like being like that's probably like 5 hours of makeup a day. I mean, that's a pain in the ass. Of course, you're getting paid. Yeah, I know that. I know that. But look, he's talking like a pro wrestler. He's talking. He's like saying, yeah, it is what it is. You know, like that. So I respect what he's saying. Do I think it's necessary? I think he gets more respect than he thinks he gets, because he's getting plenty of work. That's the measure. He's always working. So, I mean, he's getting respect. I don't know why he thinks he's not. And I think he's terrific. I really do.
Yeah, I did read about him. I did read online that people were talking about on the Netflix movie, whatever, Onion, whatever, The Knives Out, which doesn't really interest me. Maybe I'll see it, maybe I won't. But
I heard they were both really good.
Nonetheless, people were really like taken back by Bautista's shaved head, because he's got so many lines and pieces in his head, and that's perhaps a lot to do with the pro wrestling background. And
it's like Abdullah the Butcher.
Well, some of it is blading, but some of it is just rolling around on the mat and having your head, creased on the mat all those years. But anyway, just a slight funny aside on Dave Bautista. A guy that I agree. I think he's he's definitely a good quality actor, and I think even his wrestling career, he doesn't quite get the shine that perhaps maybe other Hall of Famers do. I think the guy had a very good, strong wrestling career as well. There you go. I'll say it. And I love his tattoos. He did say about Drax, one of the things he did say was, he didn't know how much longer he could play him, because he's 53, and he's feeling more self-conscious about literally having no shirt on. You get to be in your 50s and you're not, things start going south.
Oh, is that why Ric Flair wrestled his last match in that blue whatever the hell it was?
Well, Rick talked about it. He lost his confidence and he wasn't in shape. We've heard over 3 different documentaries now how he lost his confidence, and Paul Levesque had to speak to him in the hallway and say, "Listen, Rick, you're Ric Flair, damn it. You acted."
You actually sounded like Triple H right there. Listen, Rick, you're the game. You're the nature boy.
The game. Yeah. Well, ironically, Gru, you did mention Paul Levesque, and we'll finish up the week that was with some big news in the WWE. Gru, let's hear it. After announcing his retirement this past July, it made investigations into decades. Now, I didn't really edit this much because I liked the whole article, so just give me a minute here.
Go ahead.
We know that a lot of alleged sexual misconduct. Vince McMahon is now back as executive chairman of WWE's board of directors. Well, what does that mean? Well, McMahon's intentions were announced in a Thursday press release, which followed a Wall Street Journal article, major publication, claiming Vince McMahon was looking to return ahead of media rights negotiations. In the press release, McMahon asked for himself, as well as former WWE co-presidents and board members Michelle Wilson and George Barrios, to be elected back to the board. 3 board members had to vacate their seats in a corresponding move to make this happen. On Friday, an SEC filing confirmed that the trio had in fact been placed in these roles. A statement from co-CEO Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan, as well as Chief Content Officer Paul Levesque, a.k.a. One Triple H, followed. Quote, "Today we announced that the founder of WWE, Vince McMahon, will be returning to the board." Friday's statement read, "We also welcome back Michelle Wilson and George Barrios to our board of directors. Together we look forward to exploring all strategic alternatives to maximize shareholder value." Grew even after retiring in July, Vince McMahon remained WWE's controlling shareholder. McMahon stated that as the WWE nears media rights negotiations for shows such as Raw and Smackdown, they will need the company's controlling shareholder on board to guide the process and approve any new deals. Let's see here. Vince McMahon did say it as follows: "My return will allow WWE as well as any transaction counterparties to engage in these processes, knowing that they will have support of the controlling shareholders." Quote, "I am extremely confident in the continued success of WWE, and I leave our company in the capable hands of an extraordinary group of superstars employees and executives. In particular, both chairwoman and co-CEO Stephanie McMahon and co-CEO Nick Khan. Notice doesn't mention Triple H. Vince McMahon said, Gru, Dallas-level drama in World Wrestling Entertainment?
I don't think so. I think this. It sounds to me like he's just taking. I don't know. I mean, it sounds to me like he's protecting. Can you start this one? Cause I'm trying to.
I'm going to give you my take.
All right, go ahead.
Give you my take on it. Vince McMahon is doing a gangster move right here.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically he's been, essentially after these allegations, he's been frozen out of the company, and for the most part, the company has gotten very good reviews on where it has gone since Vince's departure in terms of the product. Nothing's been perfect, but most people have seemed to enjoy where the WWE has gone since Vince has left.
Right.
The WWE's media rights for all its shows and its content are up, I think, over the summer. And in order for any deal to go down, they need the majority shareholder to go on board. So he's basically saying, you want those deals to go down? You need to reinstate me on the board in order to make those deals go down, where he's going to have a major say, if not the most major say, in what happens to the company, which could include a sale of the company.
Mm-hmm.
The silver lining, which I was looking at, which is he did state that the company is in capable hands, and so creative and the day-to-day operations will remain untouched. However, a lot of people are calling BS on that as well. Different wrestling prognosticators and whatnot. I think it's a bit of a gangster move. I think it also has to do with the fact that I think the company has done really well since he's left, and I think there's a whole. We've said, Vince, over my dead cold hands, and while I don't think it's to that level, I think he's trying to reinsert himself back into the equation, that in an equation that most people don't want him back, and that's my take on it. I was really looking at whether Vince was going to be involved on the day-to-day ops. From what I've read, he's not returned back to the WWE offices. Creative and the different things are still in the hands of the people since he's left, which I think was most important to me. That's my take on it. Dallas level drama, maybe not, but I mean, it's a gangster move. He's forcing his way back in there for sure.
Okay, so now, all right, you've made it a lot. Getting your take on it actually helps me here. So now I look at it as, all right, it's Jules Corpio riding around in the golf cart while everybody, so nobody, or maybe two of our listeners will know what that means. But I think, look, he's not running the company, but it's still his. That's the thing. So it's
understood, but he has to sign off on whatever deal. Whereas, and I don't want to get into these but Jules Corpio didn't need to. No one was going to wait for Jules' okay on a deal.
That's not true. That's not true. That's my point. No. This is my point. So we're not going to use that name anymore because we don't want to. But anyway, but my point is that if you own a company, all right, let's say Mitch Moody, okay, your dad. Let's say your dad owns his company and he decides to retire. The company is still his, but he's done. He's out of it. He's playing golf. He's doing whatever he does. But the company can't move without his say so. He's got to sign off on it because he still owns the company. It's still his. It belongs to him. So even though he has zero to do with the day-to-day operations, you're still not going to be able to take that company and sell it to some other company without him being involved. And I completely respect that. He built it. It's his. Vince McMahon built it. It's his. What's going on with it now, if it affects the current product, then I will say, you know what, you're an asshole. But if he's coming back to facilitate the sale of what he created at that level, I think he has every right in the world to do it, and if I were him, I'd probably want to do it too. I wouldn't want to see everything I built be taken to somewhere that it's gotta go through me. It's mine, I built it, it's gotta go through me. And that's why when he left, I said there's no way that he's not somehow still sticking his hand in, because you don't just walk away from your... I mean, you could argue that he loves the WWE more than he loves his own family. So I can't fault him for doing what he seems to be trying to do. But if it does affect the quality, and if we do start hearing reports where he's, sneaking into the writers' room and doing all that stuff, then I'll be like, no, that's wrong. That'd be like Mitch coming in and saying, before we sell here, oh, you guys are doing all this wrong. Here, let me, get out of my chair. I'll sit. This is my chair still. Just because I'm not here, like, he wouldn't do that. All right. So I'm hoping Vince knows where to stop, and I support what he's doing because I think he's got the right to do it.
I think what you're saying is factually is correct. I think it is time. This was a good time to go, and I think his time has kind of come and gone. And to be quite honest, I'd rather him lurk in the shadows. He has every right to. I don't disagree. I mean, if you're asking me if you're going to use a family business, and dad's well into his 70s, retired, and makes young Ev Moody director, I'm going to maybe ask my dad for his opinion, but that's not going to stop me from doing what I think is best for the business. And Vince is inserted himself now fully into the equation. I mean, they need that 51% to make any deal go down, and so he's going to be the biggest say in what happens into the company, and perhaps that is even forcing a sale that maybe Stephanie and the other people don't want. And again, it's just me opining, but I was kind of just getting used to Vince being gone. Now you come back again, damn it.
Well, could it also be that Triple H and Stephanie and Nick Khan were trying to sell it, and Vince said, "Oh no, not without me."
That's not what I've read. Is I think Vince perhaps is on board with the sale, because I think it's out of the day-to-day ops are out of his hands now, and perhaps he's saying, if I'm not running the deal, nobody's going to run the deal, or it won't be under the McMahon name anymore. But
so is this drunk Uncle Vince just getting senile and saying, "I'm going to come in and fuck everything up"?
It depends on your perspective.
Yeah.
They did put out a statement saying that this did not automatically mean a sale, but a lot of people are opining that this could mean a sale. I think this go around, I hope not. I think what they'll probably do is probably stick with NBC Universal, and the Peacock deal was very successful for them. We'll hit up the app in a little bit, for our follow along, and we've already spoke about what we liked and what we have not liked about the WWE hub on Peacock. But I think nonetheless the deal for them has been a very, very, very good one. And in terms of again, I'm not in this business, but in terms of media rights, it's like the real estate market is down, the media rights market is up. Everybody just wants content to throw on their streaming services.
Yep.
And the WWE, which has got the most extensive pro wrestling library out there, people are going to want that. People are going to want their hands on it, and they're going to pay big, big money to have it.
Hey, it's been a couple years since I think they went over to Peacock, and it's I have not heard one negative thing about like the change from pay-per-view to premium live, whatever. Everything seems to be firing on all cylinders. But look, it's Vince McMahon's baby, and I can't say that I fault him for wanting to be involved in the move that's going to take it away from that's going to make it a non-McMahon entity.
Well, that's just, again, that's all supposition. I still want it. I don't think it's ready yet. I don't know. I still want it. I'm interested to see where Stephanie, really, Nick Khan and Triple H take this company.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to have plenty of time.
Next whatever couple of years.
Yeah, I think they're going to have time to do that, because don't they have to let all the current TV rights deals run out?
I think from what I'm reading, they're done in maybe July. I don't know. I think
too?
Raw SmackDown. That's what my notes have.
Oh.
So I think now's the time to negotiate. The next round. What I did read was perhaps they were leaning towards putting everything on
Peacock.
On Peacock, or NBC owned, stations, affiliates, or whatnot. But again, we'll see what happens. I
don't like that idea.
Is it true? Okay. You want to go ahead.
Well, the only reason I don't like it, because if that's basically monopolizing the content to one company. So if one company sours on it, it affects everything. Here, if Fox decides to drop Smackdown, okay, they'll find another home for it. But at least we still have Raw, we still have Peacock, we still have all that stuff. I think I like that. That's three major players in this media game: Fox, NBC, and USA. So they should be looking to build on that, not condensing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
That's a good point. Didn't think about that. Is it true that your dad's going to be representing us after our 100th episode for our media content?
Yes, I spoke about that with him yesterday, and he says he just has to go through one final review of that baseball play back in 1988 that he's still being questioned about even to this day.
Yeah, actually, I just read online that the rumors are we're going to be going to the Cockpea streaming app, not Peacock.
The Cockpea?
Yes.
Well, that would make much more sense. A pea doesn't cock, a cock peas.
Exactly, Groove.
Yeah,
and on today's Nothing Worthwhile podcast, we're going to do a follow-along. Hogan Rock 18. Brought to you by New You Life Center.
First time ever.
I guess we're making you fall fabulous. Maybe at some point I'll change the advertisements. Whether it's mobile IV services formulated to your needs to make you feel better, faster, or saying goodbye to all those pesky skin tags and skin issues with the help of their state-of-the-art laser treatments. I did one last week. Cool Peel. That's New You Life Center. Check them out at www.newyoulifecenters.com or call them at 480 Life-Changing Solutions to answer your goals. That's New You Life Center. Yeah, I did the Cool Peel. It wasn't really bad at all.
The Cool Peel.
Yeah.
I want one.
All right, Groove. Yeah, you may get one.
Good.
You may get one. All right.
I'll take two.
All right. Well, we are. I have an idea for the for when you come down to Arizona for a good podcast. All right, Groove, let's talk about Hulk Hogan and The Rock. It's 2002, one full year after World Wrestling Federation bought its number one competitor, World Championship Wrestling. Long gone was the failed invasion angle, or the somewhat failed, depending on your opinion, the invasion angle and business. At this point, 2002, it seems like we're coming off of the Attitude Era bubble, and it really wasn't as hot as it was during that late 90s blazing run of the Attitude Era. Three members of the NWO, Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, were free agents, and Vince McMahon was openly interested in bringing the Big Three on board. Well, what was the current roster's vibe in the WWF? Well, the WCW veterans now in the WWF were feeling some trepidation as they remember perhaps the political backstage game that the Big Three played in WCW, and the loyal WWF vets had to be a bit disgusted as now, once again, they may be placed towards the back of the card, grew early 2002, WWF putting out feelers on Hogan, Nash, and Hall.
Well, I could certainly understand why all the talent would be trepidatious because, they knew that they were going to come in and be the central focus of everything, which they were. So as someone who, if I were someone on the roster fighting tooth and nail to get to the top of the card, yes, I'd be like, oh God, this is, whether it's good or not, it's probably not going to be good for me. At the same time, if you're looking at it from a company's perspective, it's only going to give the company more, what's the word I'm looking for? Notoriety or more attention, more like it's all
exposure.
It could only be. I mean, it's huge. You got your guy who basically, with Vince McMahon, built the rock that you're standing on. Okay, and here he's coming back, and here
good play on words,
and here he's
he just ignores me.
Yeah, no, I got you. And then here he's coming back. Yes, okay. It's kind of like Vince McMahon coming back here. It's like, oh, I thought we were done with this guy. Now we're gonna have to deal with him again. But at the same time, this is in a way, it's his rightful spot. You don't bring Hulk Hogan in and put him at as a jobber. So yeah, I can see both sides of that equation. If I'm interested in the business side of it, I'm rejoicing. If I'm interested in the talent side of it, I'm not thrilled.
What do you think about? Because again, I these notes I just fronted off the top of my head. I remember 2002 as a fan. It's not 97, 98. It feels like we've come off the Attitude Era bubble, and it feels like, well, it's not, we're not drawing a 1-7 on Raw. It feels like wrestling, or at least the WWF, is not quite as hot as it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago during the Monday Night Wars, and perhaps Vince is looking at maybe some of these free agents, or let's say specifically Hulk Hogan and the Outsiders is maybe drumming up a little bit more business. I mean, what do you think of my take there? Do you remember 2002 as a fan? Did it feel like to you that it wasn't quite as cooking as 97, 98?
I don't remember feeling that way. In looking back at the content, I can see that maybe they were losing a little bit of heat. Because wasn't The Rock going back and forth at this point?
I think he did the Scorpion King. I don't think he was doing back and forth yet. I think there was maybe another year. But I mean, clearly this guy is
well, let me ask you a question.
I'm just talking to you about not really specifically one person, but I remember 2002, 97, 98. They got the cover of People magazine. They got the cover of TV Guide. I mean, wrestling was, or WWF specifically, was everywhere. It just feels like in 2002 where, again, I agree with you, it's not a steep decline, but it just, to me as a fan, it didn't feel quite like it did 3 or 4 years ago.
I'll agree. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It lost, like a movie loses legs a little bit after a while. Like it's out the first 5 weekends, it's making hundreds of millions of dollars, and eventually interest wanes a little bit.
Well, I have next Vince, specifically prior to Hulk Hogan and the Outsiders being brought in. Vince pitched The Rock on a match versus Hogan, with the theme being who was the true icon of the WWE. Reportedly, Dwayne The Rock Johnson was all in on Hogan, Nash, and Hall returning. Early calls between Hogan and Vince went well, with Vince telling Hogan, if you're coming back, you need to bring it. You need the Hulkster. You need to be in top shape, and you need to be ready to perform at the highest level. The last 2 years in WCW, I think, pretty much was known to be a shit show for Hogan.
Yeah.
And the WWF is by far the top game in the land. So there was an expectation if Terry Bollea was going to come back, he was to be on his best behavior and be ready to bring the Hulkster's A game. So WWE Magazine flirted with the return of Hogan, but one man definitively came out against it, and communicated his displeasure. Stone Cold Steve Austin was quoted in WWE Magazine as calling Hulk Hogan, quote, a pile of trash, a manipulator, and he does backstage politics. Of course he does, Gru. He's Hulk Hogan, right?
Yes. Yeah. And Austin had the benefit of being in WCW when Hogan was doing that.
Well, I think that's what shaded him a little bit on the return.
Sure. I can look. I can 1,000% see that, and Stone Cold, especially because Stone Cold was the number one. Excuse me, hiccups. Stone Cold was the number one guy. So all of a sudden, the other number one guy is coming in to the territory, and he's got an enormous amount of influence. So I could certainly understand why Stone Cold would be not happy about it. Well, shit sucks sometimes, because guess what? The Hulkamaniacs were excited.
Nowhere else than Nothing Worthwhile you're going to get that kind of scintillating commentary. shit.
Well, I can't. Well, no. I mean, it's like no. But don't you agree? I mean, it's like you're in a company. All right, you're not the boss. You might be one of the top guys in the company, but you're not the boss. And the boss says, "Listen, I'm hiring these people to come in. What they do has nothing to do with you." And it could be someone that you've worked with in the past. You could tell the boss, all right, listen, I don't like this guy's bad news. I'm just telling you right now, this guy's not going to be good. Blah, blah. I'll take it under advisement. Thank you. And then you go on and do your job. You know, that's the way I feel. These guys can feel however they want, but when it's not your house, anybody who the owner wants to come in is allowed in. And if you don't want to stay there, then you can go across the street.
Well, he did. I mean, clearly, a year or two later, he took his ball and went home with it. And famously, Steve Austin. I mean, okay, so I think here, I don't disagree with you, but to me, you got to understand Steve Austin. This guy was on the top of the card for 4 or 5 years. He's had, in my opinion, the whitest hot run of any one wrestler, not lengthwise, but he was untouchable for like a 3-year run. And here you're starting to see perhaps him fall a little bit back to earth. Now, I think the WWF made the right call, clearly, with The Rock against Hogan for a variety of reasons. I don't think Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Hulk Hogan at this stage would have been, in terms of entertainment, an entertaining match like Hogan Rock, because both guys were ground mat wrestlers, were essentially brawlers. They didn't have a big skill set. Not that The Rock did as much, but when we watched the match, The Rock is able to bump all over the ring and make Hulk Hogan look like $1 million at the age of 52, 53, however old he was. So I think they made the right call here. I think in hindsight, Austin, he said, had he have to do it all over again, perhaps he would have changed his tune, because obviously there could have been a lot of money to be made with Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Hulk Hogan. But I think stylistically and for the time, this was the best way to go. I
agree 100%. Also, they had that sort of like, they always showed that footage of The Rock, of Dwayne Johnson, of little Dwayne Johnson in the stands cheering for Hulk Hogan, for Hulkamania. So there was that novelty. But was one thing I'm not clear on, did they go to Stone Cold first with the match? And he said no, and then they went to The Rock? Is that how it worked?
I don't know. I know that from my notes, Vince specifically spoke to it, and he's going to speak to his 2 biggest stars. I would probably assume he went to Stone Cold first, but I still think Stone Cold was highest on the pecking order. Prior to Mania, but I think here this Mania is clearly The Rock's coming out party. This is the main event. It's a stacked card, WrestleMania 18, but clearly, in a stacked card, this is the biggest.
It's considered one of the better WrestleManias.
Yes, I think it's considered one of the best, if not the best of all time. Gru, early talks with Hulk Hogan has him having no issue with taking the 3 count at Mania to The Rock or Austin. though The Rock is on record saying he gave that a grain of salt given match outcomes with a guy like Hulk Hogan. The deal was in place, and the NWO was set to debut at No Way Out pay-per-view in 2002. Grew when it was announced that the NWO, Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall were back to the WWF. I know you're a Hulk. I know you're a Hulkster. How'd you feel?
Well, very mixed feelings, and you're gonna hate why, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So, of course, I was excited that Hogan was coming back. Okay, but I'm a Hulkamaniac. I'm a red and yellow Hogan guy. Like when Hogan went to the NWO and did that whole thing, while I loved what he was doing, to me, I was always thinking about the end game. I was always thinking about, okay, is this what's going to push him back to Hulkamania? Is Roddy Piper coming in gonna snap him out of it? So I was always hoping for that happy ending. So I was always looking forward to that. And when that happened in WCW, it was really cool. I remember really, really liking it. Like, he just showed up one day and the old music was back and the red and yellow was back. I love that shit. So I wasn't thrilled that they were bringing him in as NWO. I figured since he was coming back to WWF at the time, bring back Hulkamania. But that's why I'm not in charge. They went the right way with it, but because I don't think they knew what was going to happen. But at the time, very mixed feelings about it.
I agree with your final assessment, though. We'll talk about the crowd's reaction and maybe whether or not the NWO thing was a success or successful. I think this was the best way to do it initially, which was to bring back the NWO, the core three. When WCW brought back the Red, come on.
Well, WCW was done at that point anyway. I mean, they were grasping at straws, but it was still cool to see.
It's like I've said before, you want to see it in one ring, and I don't really know why, but that's just how I felt. It's just like I've said to you before with CM Punk coming back. Do AEW? I don't really care, but if it was back in the WWE, I would care. It's just, there's a certain connection there, and when they brought back the red and yellow, I was like, I don't know, it's just so cheap, the cheap guitar imitation knockoff music, I don't know. It felt...
You didn't like it? You didn't like it when his little boy came in and said, "Here, I have these clothes for you, Daddy," and he's looking at it, he's like, all right, wait a minute. And then 3 minutes later you hear, "He's American man." You hear like Tony Schiavone, "Oh my God, he's back!
And they're playing like the Jacksonville Amphitheater, like 3,000 fans,
They're playing right in front of the Great Train Store at the Mall of America, wherever the hell they were.
I think the final Nitro was like at a pool club in Jacksonville. It was like there was a pool outside.
We're in Eric Bischoff's backyard right now.
Exactly. I just read he's wrestling again, Bischoff. 64. He's doing a thing with his son. It's an indie show. I know, exactly. Grillin's storyline, Vince McMahon was struggling with co-owner Ric Flair over control of the company. I love it. The consortium is mine! And then Vince doing the ear tug. Yep. I love when you talk about the ear tug.
The ear tug.
Instead of fighting with Flair, Vince McMahon chooses to destroy his own creation, the WWE, with a lethal dose of the NWO. And Andrew, let's take a look at that very famous promo.
I love that.
And let me share. Can you?
I don't see anything yet.
Oh, hold on. Now you should. Do you see it now?
I see it now. Oh, there
all right,
it
Andrew.
is.
Mr. McMahon announces the arrival of the NWO Smackdown 2002. For your viewing pleasure, we started it off at 6 minutes 40 seconds.
Go for it. You got to share the audio.
I didn't share the audio?
I don't think so. I didn't hear anything.
Let me stop sharing.
Hey, look, it's me.
Oh, you're right, Andrew. And screen. All right, here we go. Okay. Let's go from right here. Mr. McMahon.
Does this have like the music like the Druid music?
I don't think so. This was the end of... I remember this promo, and I remember the very end when he reveals the letters NWO, being completely excited whilever I was watching it. I was probably in Florida, probably with you. Let's see. Here we go.
Because of Ric Flair. Flair's going to kill it. And the kind of cancer
Doesn't he start crying?
Flair gave the WWF is the slow eating
Genius.
kind of cancer.
Gotta love it.
I love this man.
It's not quick. I'm not gonna let Ric Flair kill what I created. Me. The WWF is mine.
He's got to change this to Nick Khan.
I created. I'm not gonna let Ric Flair kill what I created. Because I'm going to kill what I created.
So good.
I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna kill my creation. I'm going to inject the WWF with a lethal dose of poison.
I love it.
Yes.
If anybody's gonna kill my creation, I'm gonna do it. Me and the NWO.
I mean,
one of the great promos of all time.
Is there not a better way to sort of introduce that whole deal? I mean, is that just not amazing?
Incredible. But I remember on the show they were spacing them out.
Yes.
Yeah, they would keep going back to him, and I remember there was a point where he was like crying. He was like, "I have terminal cancer!" Like, oh my God, what an episode of.
And you just listen. It's completely campy. It's completely over the top, but it's just so fantastic. His performance there. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely, and we all knew it was coming. We knew that the NWO was coming at that point. It wasn't surprising to us because at that point we were checking the sites.
The website.
We had Scoop Central. Remember?
Yeah.
So Lords of Pain. We sort of knew that this was happening because after the sale and people started coming over like Booker T and Ric Flair, even everyone was like, all right, well, when's Hogan coming back? So this wasn't exactly a surprise, but the way it was done was beautiful.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. So, let's see here. Old school WWF fans finally realizing the return of Hulk Hogan, but Gru, this was different. Hogan was a member of WCW, and he had spared no expense in embarrassing his old company time and time again. Along with Eric Bischoff, the Hulkster was absolutely ferocious in his drive to beat the WWF. And let's not forget or overlook the returns of Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, a.k.a. the Outsiders, whose jump to WCW kick-started this whole Monday Night War deal off. Gru, any way you cut it, for professional wrestling fans, this had to be a huge deal.
Oh yeah, it was the biggest deal. It was arguably the number one guy and the number one game changers, meaning the NWO from the Attitude Era. This group changed everything over on the other side, and now they're coming in here. So you heard the chorus of boos when McMahon said it, and why? Because the NWO was known to have been the death knell for WCW, because once they had lightning in a bottle, they didn't know what to do with it. That was the thing. So that's why that part of it didn't seem to be welcome. But in the right hands, who knows? So, but either way, you have to think, I know you and I were excited about just them coming back. Just them being there, just Hall, Nash, and Hogan just being back in the WWF at that point was enough for people like us, I think.
You referenced the websites, but what do you think of the WWF openly announcing that the NWO was going to be at the NWO the No Way Out pay-per-view? What did you think of that? Because I do remember, I think as a fan, feeling mixed, like it's a big deal, but you're just so upfront about it. I don't know if I'm explaining myself properly, but I was like, maybe there's a better way to do this.
No, I think you mean as opposed to like a surprise run-in, something like that?
Yeah, I don't know. It was like the NWO, like at No Way Out. It was just so plainly stated. And again, I don't know if there was a better, there may have been, but you gotta give the heads up on that one, because remember, you're still selling pay-per-views. That probably upped the buys, quote unquote, on the pay-per-views by a lot. But that being said, there was probably a better way. But as far as with what they were doing, meaning setting up the No Way Out pay-per-view, Vince could not have sold it better than he did. Well, if they just left it at Vince's promo, it was just effing brilliant.
You know what they shouldn't have done? They should not have started showing the NWO promos. They should have just left it silent, so we don't even know what they look like now. We haven't seen them in 2 years, so you plant the seed with that NWO, because then they started doing like the vignettes, like.
Well, here's what they did. Now I'm remembering it now. Before the websites were talking about the rumor mill, and they did a video package with a Kid Rock song, and for the first time they showed WCW, like NWO. It was like a vignette of all the great moments, and that's what got the fans talking, like, oh my God, maybe they're open to Hogan and Nash and Hall returning. They had like a Kid Rock song, and they were showing clips from WCW, the NWO, and I remember that was they always seem to do that, like when they're about to bring somebody back into the fold that maybe was disenfranchised for a while, they start putting him into those little video packages. Now they have the YouTube clips and everything, but back then there was like a Kid Rock vignette that they were playing on Raw and Smackdown, one of his songs, and they had all these great moments in WWF, and maybe they showed, I remember specifically showing Hogan, Nash, and Hall in WCW, and I was like, oh no! They're coming back! Let me call crew!
As a matter of fact,
pick up!
Yeah. Where the hell are you? I'm watching! I remember, yeah.
Well, No Way Out pay-per-view opens, Crew, and their baby faces, the three cut a promo swearing that they are here in the WWF to cause no problems and to make the WWF even better. Hulk Hogan even says, God bless the fans, God bless Vince McMahon, and God bless America. But alas, Andrew, it was too good to be true. The NWO perhaps predictably come out for the Undisputed Heavyweight Championship match between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Chris Jericho, and their interference leads to a Chris Jericho victory. Again, maybe a bit predictable, but nonetheless, that sets the NWO up as massive heels.
Well, I think, and I remember feeling that way, what are they here? So immediately my first thought was, okay, they're doing that honky tonk man style. Thank you very much. I love y'all. Like that kind of thing. And then he thanked Vince McMahon, who was the biggest heel in the company. So I'm like, all right, now I see what they're doing. They're going to at least be the old NWO. They're going to be a heel faction. They're coming in to do what Vince McMahon hired them to do. So I thought Hogan played that very, very well and straight. I was afraid he was going to go right into Hulkamania, and just, get caught up in the moment. But he was much more subdued than he usually is, and he was putting on a facade, and I thought it was very effective. All three of them, I thought they were very effective in that first introduction.
Crew, let's touch upon the NWO ring entrance under WWF. We get the classic NWO theme, and in black and white color until the boys enter the ring, where we get a little click, and then we come out to vibrant color. The WWF didn't change much, but that little tinker I thought was a cool.
Yeah, I agree.
What did you think?
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I didn't really notice it at first, but in subsequent. Is it subsequent or subsequent? Subsequent. Tomato. Subsequential viewings. I see the subtle differences, and yeah, I like that. It was a nice touch. I guess you're looking for things. Okay, how can we want to keep the spirit of it, but we want to give it our own flavor. So yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Gru, the next night, Hulk Hogan of the NWO comes out to a rousing ovation on Monday Night Raw. What looks to be maybe a tweener promo goes full heel as Hogan accuses the WWF fans of taking him for granted. He never wanted to leave the WWF, but it was the fans, the Hulkamaniacs, that drove him out of the WWF. Gru, this is absolute blasphemy.
Yeah, and he's not wrong either. Because no. I mean,
Hulk Hogan.
Well, wait a second. You remember Hulkamania was fading. In the WWF, and I remember Vince. Fans were not giving him the not me. I was always hook, line, and sinker. You know that, but fans like the best example of that was when Sid Justice came in, and they started their feud. Fans were all in on Sid Justice, and they were kind of booing Hogan when they had that dust up at the Royal Rumble, and then parlaying that into Mania. But I was just happy to see Hulk Hogan in a WWF ring. I really was.
I've always said that the two biggest misses were the invasion angle, not getting all those guys in, including Goldberg, Steiner for the invasion, and of course the missed opportunity with Ric Flair in the WWF facing Hogan.
Sure.
Do you think that at all do you think that they were concerned that if Ric Flair, somewhat still in their prime, Hogan and Flair, that Flair would have gotten a bigger shine at Mania? Perhaps even a better introduction, more, seeing that kind of tweener response to Hulk Hogan at Mania could have put the lid on it. I just hearing your comments.
Wait, are you talking about the one I just mentioned? When Hogan left?
Instead you mentioned Sid Justice. Instead of going Hogan Flair at Mania, they pivoted and went Flair Savage at Mania and Hogan Justice. Do you think that had anything to do with perhaps Ric Flair and Hogan still kind of in their primes, that Ric Flair might have gotten a pretty strong response at Mania versus Hulk Hogan, and that could have made the top guy look a little bit weaker?
Yeah. I think I think that was definitely the case. Plus, Hogan was leaving, and the only way to get and if Hogan was going to fight Flair at WrestleMania, then Hogan was going to drop the belt cleanly to Flair, and Hogan did not want to do that. And I do not, as much as I love Hogan, I hate it when these guys do that. There's no shame in dropping a belt to Ric fucking Flair. I'm sorry, but so I think that's why they did what they did. But yeah, Flair. Yes, the answer to your question is yes.
Thank you. Hogan finishes up his promo by saying he's the biggest icon in the business, and of course, out comes The Rock. The Rock acknowledges that he was a fan of the Hulkster as a child, but challenges him that it was the fans that drove him out of the WWF. The Rock states that you talk about headlining WrestleMania after WrestleMania after WrestleMania. Well, how about you headline one more WrestleMania with The Rock?
Yeah, I remember that. Oh, man.
Gru, the fans are electric. The Hulkster calls The Rock the flavor of the month. The Rock challenges Hogan again and asks him one more time to a match at WrestleMania. Hogan says yes, and we're off to the races, Gru. Oh, yeah, before that, Rock bottoms Hogan, and while he's walking up the ramp, the outsiders, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, blindside attack him, bringing The Rock back into the ring, where he takes a classic NWO beatdown, including the spray painting of the NWO on his back. Gru, off and running with Hogan and The Rock.
Yes, this was good. This was exactly what it should have been, because it definitely painted Hulk Hogan into the heel corner and The Rock into the face corner, and at this point it was up to the fans which way this thing was going to go. So up until this point, it's been, in my opinion, it's pitch perfect. There's one misstep that I'm sure you'll get to, that I'll identify, in my opinion, when you get to it.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what else I got here. The Rock was written off WWF TV for a while to sell the injuries. The NWO tangled with Stone Cold Steve Austin at that time, but Austin would not agree to a face-off with the Hulkster. And then, of course, to sell the Rock Hogan match, the greatest icon of all time, that kind of theme was placed on Mania. Perhaps a bit short-sighted, given that the biggest star in WWF was arguably Stone Cold Steve Austin, but this is what we got. In order to ensure that the match was at the highest level, Hulk Hogan agreed to something that he traditionally never did. The Hulkster sat down with The Rock, Vince McMahon, Pat Patterson, and Michael Hayes to map out the entire match. Now, the Hulkster even flew back down to the home base, I think, of both guys, Tampa, Florida, where he sat with The Rock one-on-one to discuss the match with The Rock and his dad, Rocky Johnson. The one thing that the Hulkster did decline was the offer by The Rock to get into the ring prior and to go over the deal in the ring. The Hulkster flatly refused to take any bumps prior. Hulk Hogan, though, still got injured prior to his match at Mania 18, reportedly breaking a rib versus Rikishi at a house show emanating from Tampa, Florida. And if you do see the match, he does hold his stomach or his ribs from time to time.
Yes.
I'll throw it to you real quick.
Especially at the end.
What do you think? My notes, the research I have, Hulkster sitting down to map out the match, and even flying down to Tampa to sit with The Rock one-on-one, though declining to get into the ring with him.
100% perfect. I mean, you can understand not wanting to take the bumps before, an older guy like that not wanting to take the bumps, the pre-bumps. Your body's a lot more brittle. But that's the old school way. You fly these guys all over the country instead of doing it on the phone or whatever. You sit down, somebody's backyard, popping open some beers, maybe passing a couple joints around and saying, all right, let's put on the greatest match ever, and how are we going to do it? So I love that. I didn't even know that happened, especially the Rocky Johnson part. I'm just visualizing that, and I'm like, that sounds super cool.
Supposedly, Rocky Johnson told his son, you need to sit down and listen to this dude.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure. It's like, it's like hate him or love him, the wrestling business. This is the guy, and that doesn't mean that he says I'm not gonna do the job. You don't say fuck you, but you listen to what he has to say. So I that's a great anecdote right there from Rocky Johnson.
The Rock returns to WWF TV just 10 days prior to Mania, and he cuts an epic promo on the Hulkster, acknowledging that the boys in the back on the roster were indeed very hesitant when they heard Hulk Hogan and pals were making their way back to the WWF. The NWO comes out, but Hogan says we'll have to wait till WrestleMania to beat up on The Rock. Scott Hall comes to a ring for a match. The NWO boys make the save. Out comes Stone Cold Steve Austin with a chair, and it's Schmaz City. Vince McMahon comes out and makes the main event for the next Raw. It's The Rock and Stone Cold in a 3-on-2 handicap match versus the NWO. So the March 11th episode of Raw was a unique one, as it was the only time that the founding three members of the NWO competed together in a WWF ring.
Yeah.
This was also the only time we have ever seen Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold Steve Austin together in a WWF ring. Pretty unique stuff, Gru.
As competitors, you mean?
As competitors. The match itself was not considered classic, as Hogan ends up pinning The Rock. Obviously, it's the WWF way. Nonetheless, big Raw, and we're off the Toronto Sky Dome for WrestleMania. Gru, what did you think of the final sort of build-up to the main event, Hogan versus The Rock?
It was great. It was all great. All of this was, especially bringing in Stone Cold to get a little involved. This is your main thing going on. You want all eyes on this. So I remembered. I haven't seen that in a while. I think I'm going to rewatch it at some point, maybe after we do our watch along. But we did. There is a misstep that I don't remember when it was. I like to think it contributed to the storyline with The Rock being off TV for a while. Do you remember when they were going to run him over with the truck?
Yeah,
I didn't like that. I thought that was way overkill.
It was, and I think they even did it with Stone Cold. They like took a cement thing and like a brick and smashed his leg. Like I do remember that being like for me like overkill. Like you're talking about like murder here.
Yeah, that's the misstep I was referring to. Now when did that happen? Do you remember? Was that like
that was the whether it was Raw or SmackDown. That was the one that sold The Rock off TV for a while, and they brought The Rock back. So it was earlier in the build-up.
And then they're doing like the little walk when they're. Remember this I liked actually when they're walking backstage and they run into The Rock and Hogan's like, "Hey guys, look, it's The Rock."
Well,
you know
that was the first. That was the first interaction.
I enjoyed all of that.
Yeah.
But now with that aside, they've got all cylinders firing headed into this pay-per-view, and it's interesting because it's not even one of the major ones. It's not one of the big four, and yet this is. No, hold on. I'm thinking we're going into No Way Out. No, now we're going into Mania. Yeah, I'm sorry, my bad.
I was like, wow, that's a lot of build-up for No Way Out.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering why I was confused. Yeah.
It's the gobbledygooker. Gru, the Toronto Sky Dome is a very special venue for WWF. It is home to WrestleMania 18, which is the first ever WWF pay-per-view outside of the USA. They did WrestleMania, was it 6?
Yeah, it's Sky Dome.
Yeah. So this is it's the first venue to be held outside of USA. We have a legit sellout at the Sky Dome, and we know that Toronto fans are going to be hot for this main event. The WWF has done everything it could to portray Hulk Hogan in an evil light. Earlier in WrestleMania, Stone Cold toppled Scott Hall in an earlier match, and the NWO can be seen in a backstage vignette threatening to take out their frustrations with Hall losing on The Rock. Hulk Hogan tells Nash and Hall to remain in the back and to not interfere in his match with The Rock. What'd you think about that?
Well, I thought it was a little too obvious because at that point, in hindsight, that's like setting up like the face turn, and I don't think they needed to do that. I think it would have seemed more organic without that. They went to great lengths to it's like why they're out there with every other match, so it didn't quite make sense.
I'll talk about the face heel stuff when we get to the actual follow-on, which we were almost there. I do think it was a good move in the sense that a match of this magnitude, you can't have a schmozz finish. One guy's got to go over clean. That's the most satisfying way to do it, whether you agree with who wins or loses. That's another debate. But you can't have a run-in, you can't have a schmozz, a DQ, or... to me, a match of this magnitude and this stature... One guy's got to go over clean, no bullshit. Like
agreed.
To me, that's how I see it.
Well, right, and my problem isn't not having them there. It's going to great lengths to showing Hogan telling them to stay out. I think it would have been better if they were there and like the ref had to kick them out at some point during the match. Like that's a tried and true thing, but it always works. So they have to leave ringside, so then for the second half of the match, it's just Rock and Hogan. And that would solve that problem. I think they went a little too far in showing Hogan, trying to keep those guys at bay. I think that gave that was a little bit of the magician showing how he does his trick there. That's what it seemed like to me. It's not bad, it's just, I wouldn't have done it that way.
All right, Gru, listen. The time for talking is over, Gru. It's March 17, 2002. WrestleMania 18, Hulk Hogan versus The Rock. do we want to take a pause for the cause and set up our TVs? I got to go into the TV room right now.
Yes, so what we're going to do is we are going to pause the feed here. So what we'd like you to do, when I say pause, I want you to hit pause on your podcast, because when you hit play again, you, like us, should be queued up on your either YouTube or Peacock Network for WrestleMania 18 or X8 as they like to call it, at the 2 hours, 29 minute and 24 second mark. That's where we will be starting this right after we come back. So I am going to give you a 3, 2, 1 pause, and you will hit pause and go set yourself up. Are you ready, Evan?
I'm ready.
Okay, so 3, 2, 1, pause.
Okay. This is interesting.
All right, we are back. Okay, so everybody should be queued up to 2:29:44. Sorry, I said
44.
24. So 2 hours, 29 minutes, and 44 seconds. If you pause it there, you will see the incredible, immortal Hulk Hollywood Hogan on his way to the ring in a beautiful freeze frame. So
you ready, my friend?
You should be there. So on 3, 2, 1, I will say play, and you will hit play, and we will watch this classic match. Evan, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready too. So 3, 2, 1, play.
Ah, there it is.
Beautiful.
Gru, did you ever think as a fan you'd see Hulk Hogan back at WrestleMania under the WWF banner?
Once they bought WCW, I figured it would happen eventually. But to us at that point, everything seemed permanent. It's like once somebody left, they left. It wasn't until like Chris Jericho came over from. That was like was that the first big, or was that after Guerrero and?
No, Chris Jericho was really the first.
That was like
WCW free agent.
Yeah.
Perhaps the greatest, probably one of the greatest intros, that whole Millennium Man countdown. Specific here, though, I mean, this black and white intro, I'm getting goosebumps just watching it.
Me too.
I mean, it's just the fans. The way it's looking on TV, it looks like $1 million right now.
Yeah, but don't you notice interesting? Like the cameras are trying to focus on all the anti-Hogan things, but you see people around like bowing to him, like as if they're looking past the heel face thing and saying, "This is Hulk fucking Hogan in the WWF."
Well, there they're showing a sign. Yeah, The Rock's going to kick Hogan's candy ass. But
see, they just did it. There was a sign that said The Rock, and then there was one that says "Finally Hulkamania," and they cut it off, like you couldn't see the rest of it. There it is. Now he's what? He doesn't think that's going to get a huge. Look, the crowd's into it, man. They love this guy.
Well, we're now back in color, and the cameras are panning to the crowd, and Hogan is soaking in what has to be an ovation that I still say was somewhat unexpected. I don't think that they felt like...
I thought it was very unexpected.
Yeah. And, of course, we got the big star himself, The Rock, coming in, and The Rock gets a decent ovation here as well.
Absolutely. Hogan's in great shape here, you gotta say. For 50-something?
Well, I mean, I think, part of what I talked about was, Vince McMahon told Hogan, you're coming back. We want you on your A game.
Right.
And that includes, clearly, Hogan here has been dieting and, whatever else he's been doing. But he looks like $1 million
He's been doing DDP yoga?
Apparently so, yes, apparently so.
Look at that Sky Dome. And here's The Rock, family tattoo Rock.
Well, you know that The Rock's he's getting his own steroid accusations now as of late.
Really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, there was a guy on there was a guy on Joe Rogan's podcast. They were talking about this fitness influencer, the Liver King. But nonetheless, they were talking about The Rock, who's now 50 years old, and the guy's bigger than ever. And let me tell you, as a guy who's 52, you just don't have that kind of level of muscularity at the age of 50. You just don't. Mm-hmm. So I don't. Whatever The Rock's doing, God bless, because he looks like $1 million.
We didn't have it at age 25 either.
That's true. But did you take your vitamins and say your prayers?
Before this match, I did, because even if he wasn't going to remind me to do it, I never forget.
Now, Groove, you see that wide shot with the crowd. I mean, would you say that the crowd here plays just an important role as the two competitors? I mean, this crowd is electric for this match.
Yeah, the crowd. If you ask me, the crowd dictates the way this match goes. I mean, we'll get to it. There's a specific moment in the match that I want to talk about that refers to that, so I won't say it yet. But here, yeah, this is what a main event is supposed to be. This reminds me of Hogan Andre here. They're standing in the middle of the ring. The crowd has been waiting for this.
Well, here's what they're doing. They're doing what they did on the initial Monday Night Raw. They're staring at each other and looking to both sides of the arena. We've seen that before now in other matches. I think this is the first time, though, that this sort of deal has been done. And I mean, when you're getting both guys looking at opposite sides of the arena, now they're talking trash. I mean, the fans are just electric right now. Yep. And you're seeing something that you never thought you'd see. Hulk Hogan versus The Rock. All right, referee rings the bell.
Yep.
The two are squaring off. Hogan gets
Look at this, the crowd. Hogan does this very well. The start of the match when they circle around like that, that's his thing.
Well, he gets his big meat hooks into The Rock.
Yep.
Gives him the toss.
Now this right here, right there. This is right there. The motherfucker. He's like posing and like. I was like, oh, look at the crowd, Evan. Look at the crowd. All right. So to describe for the audience, they had a lockup, and if you're not watching with us, Hogan outstrengthed him and pushed him away, and then did like a
yeah. Only in Nothing Worthwhile will you get e-commentary like outstrength.
Whatever.
I don't even know what that means, but yeah, fuck you, Daniel Bryan.
Yeah,
I love it. All right, there we get the big bump. Hogan knocking Rock off his feet. Oh, wow, man. Hogan is just massive. He's just massive in this match. He is just huge. All right, he gives The Rock the just bring it. Rock is waving his head, and it looks like these two will get another lockup shortly. Fans are electric, as Andrew has already mentioned. Everybody on their feet here.
Yeah.
Hogan versus The Rock.
So
Rock
now
into the crowd a little bit. I'm hitting. Wait, tell me when to hit. Okay, I'm hitting. Up to it. Big haymaker by Hogan.
Oof.
Another haymaker.
Talking smack.
I think this is where he calls The Rock a meatball, giving him a little Rocky 3 shout out.
Did he do that?
Yes.
I don't
remember.
I
think here in my notes, Gru, the second takedown by The Rock is supposedly... Now, The Rock, by the way, is calling this match. That was agreed between Hogan and The Rock. Rock is the veteran WWF guy, so he's calling the match. But I think here is that second takedown is where The Rock is beginning to sense, hey, we got to go a different direction in this match. And as you can see here with the takedown of Hogan, he's playing a little bit more of the heel antics.
Yep.
And the fans are definitely responding. And Hogan almost gives you like that face look, like, what the hell's going on, man?
See, this is where I respect The Rock. Like to change it up like that. Like at this point, The Rock knows that he's winning the match, but he's going to send Hogan home the winner in a way.
Well, he's giving the fans what they want. They clearly they're in a nostalgia move, and they clearly want the Rock Hulk Hogan not able to go over the ring rope for the Rock.
Covering his bald spot.
You would spit into his hand, and he would do the punch, and the guy would fly over the top rope. So now we got the action outside of the ring.
Yep.
There's a Rock with an elbow to the back of Hogan.
Rolls him back
into the ring. Where are they going to go with this here? Hogan looking a little dazed.
Boom. Good solid shots.
Rock can throw a good punch.
He can. He puts his whole body into it. Throws a good kick, too. Oof! Good clothesline. Rock is good, man.
Oh! Already in crouch. Is he going to go for an early rock bottom here? Probably way too soon, Gru.
Yep.
The Hulkster with a nice elbow to the back of the head. I love this stuff. Over 50 years old and still pining for
Look at us,
for wrestling. Clearly, Hulk Hogan been to the tan shop here. I mean, Lord, is he brown for this match? All right, I'll give it to Hogan here. You got 3 quick elbows.
Yeah.
Try Hulkster.
Ooh, a little heel move.
Little heel boot to the face.
But now the Hulk signs are coming out. The Hulk rules and the Hulk posters. Now in the camera truck, they're like, okay, we got to change around a little bit here.
Hogan Irish whip into the corner. The big elbow.
Yeah.
Lifts the Rock off his feet.
Is that Yokozuna's photographer on the side there?
Could be.
Remember the one who threw like the fire in Hogan's face?
Terrible angle.
I know. All right, that's
screwed that up.
Right there. They screwed that up.
A couple of times they have a couple of small botches during this match, but they cover it up well.
Yeah,
fans are to it.
The crowd live, you can't really see it.
See, even here, like he kind of spears Hogan to the ground and gives him some really bad selling punches. Rock's playing to the crowd though. Full heel antics, getting the nice suplex. Suplex by the Hulkster.
How many different kinds of suplexes are they? You got 1, 2, 1. No.
Referee Mike Chioda with the 2
so
count.
Close. Hogan arguing. The slow count. Still, I love those pants. The lightning pants.
Boy, you don't see this very often. A Hulkster applying an abdominal stretch.
He's using moves. He's using wrestling holds.
Who is he, Dean Malenko? Those big clubbing blows to the stomach of the Rock.
See, here's where he should have gotten a haircut. Ooh, a roll up. And a near fall.
I mean, you don't like the Hogan's bozo, because I don't think Hogan's got the hair extensions. Usually you put the extensions in to give...
Right, no, you cut the sides, because when they fluff out like that, he looks like a bald guy.
Wait, it's so sweet of Hulk Hogan. He's scratching the Rock's back.
I know. He's such a
nice gesture. The vicious back rake.
He did that when he was a face, too, though.
I know.
All right, so he's got Rock in the corner. Nice chop. A little tribute to Flair.
Woo. Yep. Ooh.
I like this. That's something that Hogan's always seems to have been good with. He praises the hell out of Flair. Oh, a bite.
Well, I mean, do you think at this point it's going to serve him at 70 years of age to talk trash about Flair?
But he always has. It seems like he's always been nothing but completely complimentary of Flair.
I think time has probably healed any wounds between those two guys.
Yeah,
I think they respect each other, and they hold 2 different places in history.
Ooh, was that like a mini rock bottom from Hogan?
Like a rock bottom choke slam.
A choke pin here?
Yeah, I don't know. He should have tried to pin the Rock here. Instead, he's giving the old Hulkster choke.
He's trying so hard to be a heel. Choking. Bad choke.
Yeah, right. With the
it's like choking him with a Band-Aid.
Yeah, with Scotch tape. I hate when that happens.
So now he's going to lift Rock up off the canvas. What is the crowd looking at? Are they looking for a run-in? You see, they keep looking over to the right.
I still think the crowd I think they're way into it. The classic Rock punches.
Yep.
Let's see where we go.
There it is. Good bump from the Rock.
We're going to take this action outside of the ring. I think this is sort of where things really heat up here. We're outside the ring. Hogan tosses Rock over the ring right in front of the announce table. Hulkster walking over. What has he got in store for the Rock? Nice boot to the side there. Referee Mike Chioda outside the ring.
He's still around, isn't he?
I don't think so anymore. They have a whole bunch of new refs now.
Oh, there was Finkel.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Rock always sold this well. Rock always sells the throat against the retaining barrier outside.
Remember when they used to wear tuxedos at the pay-per-views?
The announce table, and Hogan's clearing it out.
See, back when Hogan was in his heyday, this was a heel move. Now it's anything goes, meaning smashing against the table.
Oh, Rock talking big time trash to the Hulkster. Hulkster getting his head smashed against the table 4 or 5 times for his effort. Rock picking up a steel chair. Oh, referee Mike Chioda gripping.
Clothesline.
Clothesline.
And now Hogan's going to grab the chair, if I remember correctly. No?
Let's see.
It's been a while.
Picks up the Rock.
Throws the Rock into the ring. Hogan follows him. Oh, Hogan. He's moving. Like, I would argue that he is ref bump.
Here we go. The good old ref bump, Gru.
Would you say Hogan is as like quick and spry in this match as he ever really was in his first run? I mean, he's moving, and I don't.
It's hard for me to say maybe in terms of his first run, but he's a motivated Hulk Hogan here for sure.
Yeah.
Spine buster.
Good move. Now they're both out and no ref.
Rock was always good at delivering the spine buster.
So here comes
still fixing whatever's left of his hair.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
All right, so here comes the ref's twin brother, who.
Funny, if you think about it here, the Rock just spine busted Hogan, and Hogan gets up first.
Yeah.
We're going to the sharpshooter. Here we go.
He's got it locked in, but no ref. No ref. Is Hogan tapping? I don't remember.
Look at the sell job on both of them.
Yes, and he's going to power out of it, old school. Don't tap. Is that a tap?
Oh.
That's not a tap. No, that's not a tap. It's a crawl. There you go. And he got to the rope.
Come on, Rock. Pull him away. There you go.
Listen to you.
There you go, brother.
Now he's tapping. He's tapping.
I mean, of course you have to have this when the ref is out. So one of the guys has got to, give up. The Rock pissed off.
Yeah, but you would think it'd be the guy who eventually wins, who taps without the ref seeing it.
Well, let's see what happens here. The Rock so gingerly trying to revive Mike Chioda, laying like a lump in the corner.
And here, low blow.
The dirtiest player in the game, brother, Hulk Hogan. Oh,
rock bottom from Hogan, and the crowd is up.
Of course, we're going to get retribution here. 1, 2,
oh, so close, and a near fall.
Sorry, Braxton, didn't mean to scare you, buddy. Little buddy.
Now Hogan takes off the belt, and the Rick Rude theme starts to play.
I love this here. I thought this was. In a weird way, very effective.
Yeah.
Using the belt.
At this point,
I don't know if I would call it bells and whistles, but they're doing everything. They're playing into Hogan's strengths here. I mean, they're keeping it to the ground. The Rock is able to sell.
Ooh,
getting,
DDT.
using the belt, things like this, kind of working to Hulk Hogan's strengths here.
Yeah, well,
you're not getting a Rey Mysterio flipping around for 30 minutes here.
Right. Well, that's why the Rock calling the match. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew
who's got the belt.
The Rock knew it was his job to make Hogan look great.
Leather City.
This hurts like hell.
Leather.
I don't know how. I mean, this hurts like fucking hell. I don't know how they. Ugh.
Well, Hogan's skin at this point kind of is probably like leather.
Plastic.
Yeah.
He's got that light. He's got that layer of ultraviolet light.
I know.
Another rock bottom.
Rock bottom.
The ref is up. Okay, 1.
Get it right here.
2 and no. Hogan. All right. So now here, this is my question. Was this planned? He's hulking up now, 80s style. He has not done this in a long time. Was this planned?
I'm sure
that's my question to you.
During that shit in WCW, of course. Now, would you say this is one of the greatest Hulk ups of all time?
Yes. But my point is, the Hulk up.
You got a crowd that's just for nostalgia here. Of course, you got to.
No, I mean, but was it planned in their? Do you think it was planned in their original putting together of the match? Because I don't know if they knew. Sure I don't know if they really knew that Hogan was going to go so over so beautifully.
You got to have Hulk Hogan do a Hulk up, even in NWO Hulk Hogan. And they're calling. I mean, obviously they're seeing the tone of the crowd, and you got to let every guy go through their repertoire, whether they win or lose.
That's true.
And this is part of his repertoire.
That's a good point.
And I mean, and if he's he just kicked out of the leg drop, you got to give him. You're basically saying, hey, this legend gave him all he got. The Rock slips away.
He's gonna give him probably like a people's elbow or rock bottom. So now we're going. So now we're going home, right?
I think so. Here.
Yeah.
Rock bottom.
He probably gives him a people's elbow, if I remember correctly.
All right, don't jump ahead, please.
He should. What's that white shit on his? You see that? Like glitter?
Like glitter. Yeah, glitter or something.
Was he at the strip club in Toronto, the Brass Rail?
I don't know, but we're going to get a second rock bottom here, and this reminds me of Rock Austin 3. Like when you start hitting 2 or 3 rock bottoms, the end is clear. And then look at this classic kip up.
Yeah.
Nobody does it better than The Rock.
Correct.
And finally here, you get the wide shot, people's elbow. Fans, for the most part, are going nuts. We're going to go home right here. People's elbow, Hogan selling for The Rock.
Yeah, selling very well.
2. All right, there it is, Gru.
Yep.
The Rock goes over on Hulk Hogan. We talked about it before. Was this the right call?
100%. Yeah. Are you watching the aftermath or no?
We know the aftermath.
Okay. Yes, it was 100% the right call for The Rock to go over. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
100%. That's what I think. Yeah. I was hoping Hogan would win, but it was the way it was done. Perfect. Like you said it beautifully. Everybody got their licks in. Everybody was booked super strong. And but yeah, The Rock has to win that one. Absolutely.
You did mention the finish. Obviously, we know that Hall and Nash came in, and the two guys teamed up to knock the outsiders outside of the ring. But Rock leaves the ring and allows Hogan to do his poses and his let's say goodbyes. Perhaps one final time in the sun. We'll talk about that perhaps another time with remaining moments in Hogan and the WWF. But letting the Hulk do his post-match deal, a classy move by The Rock?
Hell yeah. I mean, that's what this whole thing. You and I remember we were talking with the whole lead up. At that point we were beyond fans. We knew, all the behind the scenes stuff. We knew that these two didn't hate each other. We knew that it was entertainment. So even though it's still real to me, damn it. So we were looking at the match like we look at it now. Like, that was well done. That was beautifully done. Oh, they screwed that one. We were still watching it like that then, but we were, we had more energy to jump up out of our seat and cheer and scream. Like, we can't really do that anymore. But, the match, if the match is a great match, the finisher really doesn't, the winner really doesn't matter that much. And this is a great example of that. It didn't really matter who won this match. It was a great match, and that's really all that mattered. And I'll compare that to Hogan Andre, which was not a great match, which is why Hogan had to win. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Tough comparison, I think. Different time, different era, different expectations of the match. I think, obviously The Rock has to go over. He's the big star. He's the younger guy. It just makes logical sense. But I agree, it made Hulk Hogan look like $1 million. And Hogan was able to ride that wave of nostalgia for a pretty solid 3-year run with the WWF moving forward, which, he gets a second shine at WrestleMania with his match against Mr. McMahon the following year. So I agree. I mean, I think all in all, it did what it was intended to do. It pushes The Rock one step closer towards superstardom, and Hulk Hogan is able to ride that wave of nostalgia and have a very credible, basically final run with World Wrestling.
Well, what do you think about the decision to give him that one final run as champion when he beat Triple H?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah,
I'm fine with it. I think everybody deserves. We knew. I certainly remember thinking to myself that this is it's like an honorary spot here. I knew it wouldn't be long, but I knew it was one final moment in the sun.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we had the inglorious moment of Hulk Hogan being dragged by the Undertaker's motorcycle, which to me is one of the more unintentional, hilarious moments in WWF. So, all right, Gru, Hulk Hogan versus The Rock, follow along.
That was fun. I enjoy doing that, even if it doesn't sound good on the podcast. I don't know what it's going to sound like, but I enjoy doing this with you because it kind of reminded me of our old school days. Sitting in the basement, eating stale M&Ms and 3-day-old pizza, watching an old pay-per-view. So it brought me back a little bit.
Yeah, definitely miss those.
Our arguments, and we're doing it again.
Yeah, we will do it again. Gru,
we will have a Friday night Smackdown to watch together when you come in February.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, that is true.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right. Good.
Yeah.
Gru, give me one thing you're watching this week.
All right. So one thing I'm watching this week, I watched a movie based on a recommendation from a very good friend called Beautiful Boy. It's male porn. No, I'm just kidding. It's Steve Carell and Timothy, what's the kid's name? Chalamet or something. I'm sorry.
It's Timothy B. Schmidt.
Yeah, Timothy B. Schmidt from the Eagles plays his son.
That's right.
And I'm sorry, great performance. The name escapes me at the moment. They play father and son, and it's a pretty straightforward drama about fathers. Steve Carell's struggle with raising the son in his teenage years, who gets heavy into drugs and alcohol. Pretty wrenching, deep. Not one laugh in the entire movie. Not that it's supposed to be, but it's Steve Carell, so you figure you'll get something. The kid is the great performance here. Carell is fine. He brings it. It's a good movie. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it definitely hits you in the heart in the right places, and I would say 3 hankies out of 4.
And that was
Beautiful Boy is available
What's the year of the movie?
I think 2018.
Okay, 2018.
And it's available on Amazon Prime, meaning if you're a Prime member, you can watch it for free there. It was very good. I really, really liked it.
Well, I do have Prime. I may check that out.
Yeah, Beautiful Boy.
I mentioned HBO Max, The Menu, 2022. It's a like a dark comedy horror movie starring Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Good one, but one thing I'm watching this week, I love documentaries. Into the Deep, a 2020 documentary on Netflix following a Norwegian submarine and rocket inventor named Peter Madsen. He's a genius, like an Elon Musk type, who takes a female journalist by the name of Kim Wall on a ride in his submarine. When the submarine comes up, she is missing. And even more mysteriously, Madsen now says that he took the submarine trip by himself. And it's one of these documentaries that the incident, the crime, so to speak, happens as the documentarian is filming. Meaning they were just filming this guy as a inventor and as an admirer of his work, and then this incident happens, and it's a fascinating look at perhaps a genius or a murderer. Give it a look, Gru. It's Netflix 2020 documentary, Into the Deep.
Into the Deep. That actually sounds pretty fascinating, so I'm going to check it out.
It is. Well, thank you. All right, Gru. For our next episode of Van Dammit, Gru and I will harken back to 1993 as there are literally nowhere to run. Co-starring Rosanna Arquette and Kieran Culkin.
I'll show you where to run, right into Rosanna Arquette's breasts.
Okay, well...
Am I allowed to say that?
I think so. I don't know if we're going to be cleared by our monitors. Well, it looks like we'll be joined by our last of the action hero brethren, Hugging the Cactus podcast host, Sicco Hersnick.
Sicco!
We'll take a look as John Claude as the benevolent convict. He plays that very well. Living on a widow's farm and protecting...
The murderer with the heart of gold.
Yep, Gru, nowhere to run.
Looking forward to it. This one I have seen, but not in a long time. I remember, besides the mammaries that I have of this movie, I do remember it being pretty well made. I remember that much. So I wasn't watching it for the cinematography, mind you, but I remember that much. So I'm looking forward to watching it again and talking about it with you.
Yes, let me please say breasts and boobies.
Yeah, boobies.
Well, Gru, that's it, my friend.
All right.
Why don't you take us out of here?
Yes, well, I will take us out to Nowhere to Run next week on Van Dammit. Following that, we're going to be having our 100th episode special. What will the topic be? What will the topic be? We're not going to tell you. You're just going to have to show up. But that will be live and in person in Orlando, Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? We're not telling you when, and we're not telling you what. We're just telling you where. Okay?
I think in the podcast world, they call that a tease.
Yes, so we're teasing our 100th episode special. But before that, please join us next week for Van Dammit, Nowhere to Run. And ladies and gentlemen, until then, what I would like to ask my partner Evan is, are you ready?
I am ready.
Well then, 1, 2, 3. Rip it. Rip it.
Like a Hulk Hogan tribute show.